everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to my sewing room. Jean here. I'm going to be doing a tutorial on a very effective, simple quilting method. It's called Quilt As You Go. A lot of you want to be making a quilt, and perhaps you already have. Even you beginners, you've made a quilt top, and you get to the top and you've sandwiched it together, and you're saying to yourself, now how in the world do I quilt this? The actual quilting. Like, what do I do? Do I just do straight lines through these blocks? And it can be a real quandary to a very beginner quilt. And as you know, I'm tailoring my videos to beginner quilters. Another thing, I know you want to make a big quilt. I know that's the whole point of it. You want to learn to quilt. We will get to that. We will, I promise. We're going to, my method is, my thought pattern is, you have to walk before you run, you have to crawl before you walk. Is that right? Yeah. And so we're now in the crawling stage, if you're following me as a novice or a beginner quilter. And this method of quilting as you go, it is actually exactly what it sounds. It's quilted as you've sewn it. This is finished. You're not piecing a top and then sandwiching it and then taking it over and figuring out how to quilt it. It's called a Quilt As You Go method. It's very helpful and very good for small projects. And as I said, we are going to start out small, right? So your cousin has had a baby and you want a small baby quilt. Well, you could make a quilt just a little bit larger than this out of some real pretty delicate fabric. And the way it's constructed, which I'll be showing you, it's done. It's done. It's quilted. It's done. So that's what we're going to be doing. I just wanted to address the other day I was making a table runner out of my pinwheel blocks. If you followed one of my videos, I was making a table runner out of these pinwheel blocks. Remember, we perfected this point here, and I was making this out of like a peacock fabric, and I finished it. I quilted it. I did free motion quilting, which is hard, but you're going to get to there. I free motion quilted a beautiful swirl in these blocks here to, like, if you're looking up close, like a peacock feather. Now, I will be showing you the up close part of these quilts that we're going to be doing. My camera right now is on a tripod. Actually, it's not a tripod. It's a ladder with a pillow. I hope it doesn't fall. But like, I thought my son Elliot will be coming and videotaping me like he did before. This is my introduction to my tutorial. Hope you don't mind. I just wanted to address this. This is, again, you'll be seeing the up close part of it. This is really pretty fabric. I got it from Joann Fabrics. I have to address something. I went to Joann Fabrics. This is like a Paris theme script, which is all like in now, grays and blacks. Really pretty fabric. Keys, all trendy fabric. Toile. The toile's done to death. I've done it to death. Gingham, but it's pretty. So I got this fabric. I went to Joann Fabrics. As you know, I love Joann Fabrics, okay? I really love Joann Fabrics. My hair done. And so I went about 6 or 8 months ago. We have 2 Joann Fabrics near us. One's that way, one's that way. It's a super Joann Fabrics. I love it. 98% of stuff I get at Joann's is fantastic. I do really love it. So about 8 months ago I went. They were having a sale, like the sale of the century. They were having unbelievable sales. You had to go there early, and coupons and all sorts of stuff. And I actually bought this jelly roll from Joann's. So pretty. So very, very pretty. As I said, Paris, pinks, trendy, really nice. 2.5 inch by 42 inch, 10 designs, 2 each. There's 20 strips in here. It's not a proper jelly roll because the jelly roll's bigger, but this was like $1.82. Something absolutely ridiculous, like ridiculously cheap. So I'm clever. I'm thinking, oh, I bought 1 million of them, right? So, oh wow. Deal of the century. So I get home, and just today I thought, I'm gonna make something small for you. Why do you want to make placemats? I don't know, because it's a small project here. you know, maybe you want to make a placemat for like your niece is getting married, so you want to make you know, something homemade. Actually, I'm just thinking they probably want to check. Don't make them a quilt. Don't make anybody a quilt if they don't like, oh, I want a quilt. I love your quilts. I love your quilts. Don't make people quilts because they don't appreciate how much time and effort and money you put into a quilt. So why do you want to make placemats? Maybe just for your little breakfast table, maybe for a housewarming present, maybe for that wedding present, but attach the check also. But having said that, I made these out of this fabric. Getting back to this fabric, it's crap. It's so bad. I think what they did is they had it printed or made up at a mill just for the sale, probably, because I was sewing it. I finished it. I made them. I've made 3 of these. I've made 3 of them because it's really pretty fabric. I would never sell these. It's pretty. My quilting is lovely. I've done a really good job, but the fabric is horrible. It's like thin, and it's cut like this. I'm not a perfectionist, as you know. I don't need everything so perfect within a hair's width. I really don't. You know that of me. I wing it so much of the time. So I liked it. I thought it's pretty. It's thin. It's horrible, but it's really pretty. And I'm not giving them away. And I'm going to finish them. So I made 3 of them, and we're going to make a 4th one. I'm going to show you how to do it. But I'm not going to bash Joann Fabrics. I love Joann Fabrics. But these jelly rolls were crap. They were horrible. They were terrible. But what do you want? Like I said, what do you want for $1.82? So anyway, I'm going to get my Elliot to videotape the rest of this. It may not be today. Hopefully it will be. To continue with my quilt as you go method of quilting. So bear with me. Okay, here we are back again. Just to get it out of the way, I just want to show you once and for all the up close and personal quilting of my table runner, that hopefully you're going to be making one also. I'll just show you how I actually quilted this. Free motion quilting, which again I said is a little bit difficult for beginners. I did a bright blue thread and just these 2 swirls that looked to me like the peacock feathers. The blue on the blues, and then I did the white on the white. I bound it with a very pretty peacock feather, and I actually backed this quilt with a very beautiful gold and teal, very, very rich looking fabric. So that is my pinwheel block table runner, which maybe you'll make one. So then what we're doing is we're working on, remember, we're working on the Joann Fabrics placemats. And the way it's constructed, I'm going to be telling you about that. This is the backing material for your placemats. And actually, you can be doing, as I was saying to you, you could maybe do a quilt a little bit bigger, just a little bit bigger. When you see the construction method, I'll try to think. You couldn't do like a huge quilt because it might get a little bit wonky. It might get a little bit all over the place. But you can do a little bit of a bigger quilt, maybe in, as I said, pastel fabrics for a baby quilt, and it's done. So I'll show you what I've done to make this. I actually cut these placemats. I actually cut a piece of the backing fabric. This backing fabric is 14 inches by 20 inches. And you'll see why I cut it that size. I actually cut a piece of batting fabric also. 14 inches by 20 inches. Just the exact same size as the backing. Now, you probably are thinking, well, how do I sandwich that? You could, if you use it, which I have never done, maybe like a spray thing, a spray adhesive spray to keep it together. I don't think it's necessary. I really don't. It's just such a small piece we're working on. So I just leave it like that. Now, the trick to getting these stripes is with my horrible fabric, which we talked about. Oh, look at that. What we want to do is we're going to let, oh, before I say that, jelly roll that I purchased, which I was showing you, actually they're 42 inches long. This pattern calls for, say it's the 14-inch long strips. Well, you can get out of one long piece of jelly roll, you can get 3 lengths, the same exact size, thirds. So I just randomly cut the strips into thirds. So if you wanted to make like 75,000 placemats, you could, out of like one jelly roll, because you only need 9 pieces. If you want to do this properly, you need 9 pieces of 2.5-inch wide fabric for this placemat. So you have your 14 by 20. We are going to trim this down, but I'll show you that afterwards. We're going to take a piece of jelly roll and we're going to lay it on the end. And actually, because I just cut this a bit random, where's my scissors, Maxwell? Just stay there. Just stay there. Because I cut this a bit random, I'm actually going to just cut it like that. So then I usually do in my little quilt word, light, dark, light, dark. Oh, it's terrible. So here we go. We're going to put this is the back, this is the batting. We're going to lay the first strip down. Then we're going to lay the second strip on top of it, right sides together. Okay? Now maybe I'm not going to be sewing this entire quilt top. I'm going to sew a first few things. You'll see how quickly this makes up. Again, I'm all about the quickness. So I take it over to my sewing machine. And here I am, 1/4-inch seam. And what you want to do, I have a large throat here, as you know. What you want to do is you just want to roll this over if you have a small little area here. You want to go up here and, oh, I can't believe my thread's not. My machine's not threaded. Hold up. I'm sorry, folks. I'm tired. Here we go. There you go. My automatic threader is wonderful. So what we want to do is you want to start right sides together, 1/4 inch, and just sew this piece right down. And again, you've seen my 1/4-inch foot. Because these are cut a little bit wonky, hopefully they'll end up good and not too crooked. A lot of you might use a walking foot. A walking foot with a machine makes the fabric sew along at the exact same pace. I've never used a walking foot. Maybe I should, but this 1/4-inch foot has always been wonderful. Again, this is real important with this quilt as you go method. You've sewn that right sides together. Now you want to finger press this piece, the second piece, very, very close. And then you grab a third piece of 2.5-inch wide strip fabric. Right sides together. Line that up. 1/4 inch. And as you can imagine, having seen the other 3 that I made, this is actually being quilted. Push that over really, really, really good. See how horrible it is? So push it over really, really good. And then I'll turn it over and you'll see it's actually quilted. It's actually quilted. It's 2 inches apart, which is fine for a placemat. Now, I'm not going to bore you. I'm going to start adding my strips, and I'm going to sew my 2.5-inch strips, right sides together. But it's very, very important that you smooth out your backing, you smooth out your strips. It's going to end up with 9 strips right across the top of your placemat. So I'm going to finish that and then I will be back. Okay, so here I am finished with my strips put together. And that did not take me long at all. 9 strips across. Now, I'm going to show you how this turns out. It's on my 14-inch by 20-inch piece of fabric. There's my placemat. Pretty much done, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just, because the edges are a little bit ratty, I'm going to take my my handy dandy Fiskars ruler here. I love this ruler. I got it on Amazon. It's a 24-inch ruler with a built-in rotary cutter. Your hands never have to touch the rotary cutter, which I like because I had a terrible accident when I started quilting, and long story short, I actually cut off the top of my finger. It was ugly, it was horrible with a rotary cutter. I'm very, very, very careful with rotary cutters, and that accident, I wasn't tired, I wasn't rushing, and it still happened. It was ugly. Anyway, I still use rotary cutters, but I discovered this one. Fiskars rotary cutter, built-in rotary cutter. It's fantastic. Built-in ruler. So I'm just going to trim up, even though I started out with a fairly straight block. It gets a little bit crummy. I'm going to trim up my block here, my placemat, and I start at the very smallest point, and I make it really nice and straight on my cutting board ruler, and I just zip it along, and look at that, done. Beautiful. All of those wonky threads are gone. I do the same thing here. This one side where I did my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 strips, I did cut it slightly too big, which is fine. And I'm just going to go onto the edge of that 2.5-inch strip and take off this little bit of backing, batting, and that bit. So I have a nice straight seam there. I want to trim up this edge. I'm just lining it up with my cutting mat lines. Again, just a hair on my ruler here, just a hair. It's nice and straight, and trim up that crummy edge right there, and back you go. And then the same exact thing, I have a beautiful rectangle here on this edge here. I just want to trim that up real nice, and done. There we go. Quilted. This is quilted. It's a quilt. You've not safety pinned anything, and it's really pretty. Now I like to round the corners of my quilts. I didn't really do a very good job here. I was rushing, and I didn't really care about it, as I said. But if I really did a good job, I've made this. That'll be another tutorial altogether. I round the corners of all my quilts. I've done that because I don't know how to miter. I get really screwed up. I've watched hundreds of tutorials, and I don't know how to do it. And I don't love the look of squared, pointed quilts. I quite like the look of rounded quilts, the rounded edges of quilts. So this was a little bit more difficult because it's not a real nice curve like I do on my quilts, but I did it anyway. So what I will do is how I make the corners. Since I've squared that up beautifully, as you can see, it's super. I'll just cut just a slight curve on that corner. And then I'll come over and mirror it on this corner, just a slight curve. And so I have, instead of a square rectangular placemat, I will have a curved, cornered placemat. I've already cut out the binding. I won't bore you with it. I've already cut out the binding, which in this case is a black and white gingham, actually. And I will bind my placemat with my gingham, which I've already done, which is sort of like that country French country look. Yeah, so there you have it. That's my 4th placemat. It'll be your 4th placemat or your 1st, or you might not even try it. But try it because it's done. It's quilted. What I would usually do is I would, before I put the binding on any quilt, I'll just stitch just a tiny, about 1/8 of an inch away from around the edge to secure my quilt sandwich. But I love this method. Think about it. It's done. How long did that take? That literally took 5 minutes. You just lay and then do. Very, very important to finger press. But actually, my placemats, I will actually take this over to my ironing board and iron them. Placemats, table runners, I iron them because they're the one, you're like, why would you iron a quilt? But a placemat, you want it to lay flat. So when you put your gin and tonic down, or your glass of milk, it's not going to fall all over the place on a quilt. So I iron them nice and flat. I love my iron. I iron a lot of things. I iron my quilt blocks with 1 inch of their life. So I will iron this really nice, set those seams, and then just put my binding on. And I am done. So there you go. Quilt as you go. Quilt method. I hope that you experiment with it. Make a little bit of a bigger quilt. Bind it. And there you go. One more little tutorial from me. So have a good day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching.